Hey guys, it's the VC Andrews Critiquer. Say, do you love Dick Van Dyke? Probably. He's been in countless musicals over the years, from Mary Poppins to Chitty Chitty Bang Bang to Mary Poppins Returns, and he's still alive and relatively active in film today. But today we'll be looking at the musical that kick-started his career, Bye Bye Birdie.
Here's the scoop. The world of music of the late 1950s is in a bad state right now because Elvis Presley knockoff Conrad Birdie has just been drafted in the army and won't be back for 2 years. This hits his agent Albert Peterson especially hard because he's massively in debt and frickin' broke. So his secretary/girlfriend Rose DeLeon decides that when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Before going off in the army, they'll have Conrad make a big final appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show, where he'll sing an awesome song written by Albert and kiss one of his fans on national television, bound to be the biggest cash grab of Albert's career. The girl selected is called Kim McAfee, and she's psyched that she's going to kiss the nation's biggest rock star on national television, not to mention have said star stay with her and her stereotypical 50s family for a week. But not everything is peachy. Kim's boyfriend Hugo isn't too psyched that some big shot is gonna kiss his girl, and Rosie's starting to feel that Albert doesn't truly love her, seeing how he keeps putting off their engagement and doesn't defend her enough against his mother's borderline racist treatment of her. Can Albert save both his relationship and his career? Will Hugo get over his jealousy of Conrad before he does anything drastic? Will Conrad Birdie one day face a lawsuit from Elvis Presley's estate? It was no Hamilton when it came out, but critics and audiences liked it pretty well, and it made a name out of then relatively unknown Dick Van Dyke. And almost as well known as the film adaptation that came out 4 years after its premiere, with Dyke reprising his role as Albert and Paul Lynde as Kim's tight-ass Pop Harry. It took a fair amount of liberties from the original musical, like drastically boosting Rosie's role and somewhat downplaying Albert's, much to Dyke's dismay. But despite the changes made, people love this movie just as much as the original musical, and it's definitely left a mark on pop culture today. But not especially well known is the second adaptation for TV in 1995, starring Jason Alexander in the title role of Albert. Despite staying closer to the original musical than the '63 film, the reviews for this one were more mixed. But is it warranted? Which adaptation is truly superior? Well, let me tune you in on what I think. This is old versus new, Bye Bye Birdie.
So spread sunshine all over the place. Put on a happy.
Spread sunshine all over the place. Just put on a happy face.
No romantic musical would be complete without a lovable guy trying his hardest to get the girl with a ton of obstacles thrown in his way. But which one better pulls that off? Bert the Chimney Sweep or George Costanza? Well, let's find out with Best Alberts.
When you're not near us, we're blue. Oh, Conrad, we love you.
One thing I love about Bye Bye Birdie is how progressive it was for the time. I'll go into more detail with this a little later, but one component that's often overlooked is, unlike so many other musicals released at the time, it has a lovable loser as the male lead instead of a handsome, suave super guy. And as lovable losers go, Albert Peterson is a pretty damn good one. He's almost like an adult version of Butters at times, but there are still a few differences. Like in the original, Albert's not Conrad's agent. He just happened to write one of the songs that launched Conrad's career, and thus Conrad owes him the favor of performing his song on Ed Sullivan and making him frickin' rich. But one of the biggest differences lies in the casting. Yeah, would you believe that it's Dick Van Dyke and Jason Alexander, two polar opposite actors who play this character in each respective film? But which one is better? I bet most of you think this is no contest at all. What chance would Jason Alexander have against Dick Van Dyke, especially in the role that kick-started his career? But let's look at Albert's character. He's a timid, awkward doormat with arms and legs, still living with his mother, and too chicken to tell her he doesn't enjoy the family business of songwriting or officially propose to his girlfriend. Is that a character you would assess with the suave and charming Dick Van Dyke? Probably not. Jason Alexander, on the other hand, has played one of the best-known dorks in media, so he fits into Albert's character much better.
Well, not a horn! Break it in half!
You're 39 years old, Albert. You can take a whole aspirin.
What I wanted to say is I'm really glad that you and me.
It's not that Dyke wasn't dorky at all in the role.
Then they go get married and move away.
Who's getting married?
I just can't buy him as this wimpy geek after being typecast as so many suave, debonairish characters for so long. That, and Alexander's Albert is a bit more fleshed out and developed than Dyke's. More time is devoted to showcasing his dream to be an English teacher, or a research chemist in the original's case. Hell, there's even a song about it that's absent from the '63 film, and a damn good one at that.
An English teacher, if only you'd been an English teacher.
I also like how, in addition to having to grow a spine, this Albert also has to learn to be more humble. Yeah, every now and then, the new Albert can be almost as smug and cocky as his mother. Never to the point where he's too unlikable, but enough to make for some good character developments in the movie. Again, I love Dick Van Dyke, and ordinarily he would crush Jason Alexander in any other role the two of them shared. But Alexander was just a better fit for this particular role as a timid, butters-like guy than Dyke, and also had more dimension to his character, which is why I have to give this one to Alexander. As crazy as those words sound.
Point goes to the new.
I've got the right.
Spread sunshine all over the place. Just put on a happy face.
Another progressive thing about Bye Bye Birdie was its positive portrayal of interracial marriage, something almost unheard of back in the 1960s. I mean, sure, neither film adaptation cast an actual Hispanic woman in the role of Rosie, but maybe I should just stop there. Anyway, let's see which one is the more ideal girlfriend with Best Rosie.
When you're not near us, we're blue. Oh, Conrad, we love you.
Another tough choice as to who's the best rendition of Rosie Alvarez, or Rosie DeLeon in the '63 film. Both Janet Leigh and Vanessa Williams play her as clever, sharp, awesome singers, and very kind-hearted. When in a good mood, but can be a real tough cookie if you piss them off. But maybe Williams was a little too abrasive. In at least half her scenes, she really chews Albert out, almost to the point where I wonder why the two of them are even dating.
What are you doing?
Carrying our luggage with no help from you, Albert. Anyhow, I don't want a part of the company. This is something much more important.
You can't leave me alone like this.
Oh, you're not alone, Albert. You're on television.
Leigh could lash out at Albert too, but she felt more like she legitimately loved him and wanted to give him a chance.
All those years I wasted on Albert. Rosie the dependable one, Rosie the patient one, Rosie the good girl. I know it sounds old-fashioned, but I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm still a good girl.
Like, compare how she's first introduced in both movies. In the remake, we first see her about to quit her job and dump Albert before he convinces her otherwise. In the original, Albert thinks she's done this when she isn't in the office that day, but it turns out she's already off convincing Ed Sullivan to go through with her plan to save Albert's career. And yeah, she does still dump Albert for a while, but again, let's compare how it's done in both movies. In the original, it's because she sees Albert promising his condescending biatch of a mother that he'll never leave her, right after he promised Rosie that he would tell his mother he was moving out and marrying his girlfriend.
Boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets mother.
In the remake, it's because she's pissed that Albert's mother forced some semi-attractive dame on him to woo him and talk him out of marrying his non-white girlfriend, when he clearly didn't even like the dame to begin with. And on top of that, she's the one who lets the jealous Hugh go on stage to attack Conrad, thus wrecking Albert's plan. On the contrary, the original Rosie is the one who ends up saving the plan. I'll go into more detail with this later. Don't get me wrong, Vanessa Williams is a great actress and one of the best singers I've ever heard. But yeah, she did kind of oversell the tough girl aspect and didn't feel supportive enough towards Albert. Leigh was a tough, cynical gal as well, but she did have pretty good chemistry with Albert and was a little more patient with him. And in comparing the two, she just seems like the preferable girlfriend.
Point goes to the old.
Egotistical, selfish human beasts.
So spread sunshine all over the place. put on a happy.
It's amazing how many supporters the world of music has, isn't it? Especially when one of its key players gets drafted. However, that doesn't mean they're all necessarily supportive towards our leads. But beggars can't be choosers, so let's see what we got with Best Supporting Cast.
When you're not near us, we're blue. Oh, Conrad, we love you.
While not necessarily supportive, that doesn't mean the supporting cast isn't a lot of fun in both movies, but which one is more fun? Let's start with Kim's father, Harry McAfee, played by Paul Lynde and George Wendt. Harry's a stereotypical 50s husband, father, and cynical tight ass who wants everything to go his way, which isn't so easy when the nation's biggest rock star is staying in your house. But hey, at least he'll be appearing on Ed Sullivan with his daughter. Anyway, like with Dyke and Alexander, this one seems pretty obvious, doesn't it? And you're actually right in this case. Paul Lynde's natural smugness and ego made him fit into this role like a glove.
Dear, you know these adolescents, Kim will lose face.
And if I don't get rid of that birdie, that's not all she'll. And then that snake in a gold suit insists on parking in my beautiful living room. You know where you stand with the pad.
And sure, George Wendt does a good job in the role too.
Last night, I gave up the last piece of my favorite pie, strawberry rhubarb, to a guest who repeatedly referred to me as Fats.
But yeah, Lynde's Harry is far more memorable. Albert's mother May is good in both versions. And by good, I mean they both do well as condescending, egotistical racist biatches who pressure their sons into careers they don't want and won't hear of his marriage to a non-white girl.
Stay out of my way, Albert.
Careful, Sonny, she may be on.
Accepting, isn't she? Anyway, I think I'm going to go with the 63 version again because she's a bit more goofy and over the top, so her condescending attitude wasn't as annoying.
Kids, can't you once appreciate how I've sacrificed? Working, slaving, scrimping, saving pennies, and living with your father.
The background characters like Mrs. McAfee, Randolph, and the teens are also a lot of fun, especially with their cult-like devotion to Conrad Birdie.
We promised to sing the song 10,000 times, didn't we? Well, we still have 5,276 to go, so sing!
Speaking of which, let's talk about Conrad Birdie in the next round. I mean, his name's in the title after all, so he deserves his own round. So I guess all that's left is...
You going, Kim?
Thanks, Ursula. Yeah, who could forget the girl selected to receive that one last kiss from Conrad? Kim McAfee. Oh yeah, and her boyfriend Hugo. Now this one's tough because both portrayals of these lovebirds are very good. Hugo's the lovable nerd who might have a severe problem with envy, but really does want to be a good boyfriend for Kim. And Kim's a snarky, strong-willed teenage girl who's progressively tomboyish for the 1960s.
Thank you, Doris. You could be calling Kim. Did you say Doris?
Yeah, that may not be such a big deal today, but in the 60s, it took nerve to call your parents by their first name. But anyway, I gotta pick one of the two pairs, so once again, I pick the original. The 63 Hugo just felt slightly more dorky, and Kim felt a little more strong-willed and tomboyish. That and their chemistry feels a little more valid. I mean, at least they get back together in this version. More detail in the best story round. Tough call, but I am going to give this one to the 63 adaptation. They may not have been any more supportive towards the leads, but I just found their performances more memorable and fun. Though on a side note, Randolph is played by the same kid from Night of the Living Dummy 3. Nostalgic, but the original still gets my vote.
Point goes to the old.
I don't ever want to speak to you again.
So spread sunshine all over the place. Put on a happy.
But of course you can't do an adaptation of Bye Bye Birdie without Conrad Birdie himself, spoofing the real-life Elvis Presley. Thank you very much. So, which Conrad Bird captures the charm of Elvis while also having the more interesting character? Well honey, let's take a look with Best Conrad Birdie.
When you're not near us, we're blue. Oh, Conrad, we love you.
Now this one's going to be a bit shorter because even though he is a big plot point, Conrad Birdie's not a very complex character. He's mainly just a knockoff of Elvis Presley and not much else. So which one pulls off being an Elvis spoof better, Jesse Pearson or Mark Kudish? For me it's Mark Kudish in the remake, big time. Because for one, he's in the movie a lot more. But more importantly, Kudish just felt a lot more like Elvis Presley, not just with his looks and voice, but also had that suave charm that made Elvis so famous to begin with. You could easily see why these girls have a cult-like fan base for this guy. Pearson, I'm surprised to say, didn't seem charming at all. He just felt like a dweeb dressing up like Elvis in a failed attempt to impress some girls.
Write this down now, you gotta be sincere, honestly sincere.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure by the time he got back from the army, people moved on to the Beatles. Plus, the new Conrad also seems to have a bit more of a character. There's a subplot of how he's tired of people awing over him all the time, and how he just wants to have some young adult fun before he goes out into combat.
Oh, I'm sorry, buddy boy, but this is my last free night before I go into the army. I'm going out.
Now granted, the original did imply that he had these desires, but only subtly. It's better to flat out say it like they do in the remake. Now where it leads to is kind of... why don't we wait till the best story round to talk about it? But that aside, this Conrad does still do his job as a bland Elvis knockoff better, and has a little more personality beyond that, so he does end up being the slightly less bland of the two. Point goes to the new.
And I hope I never get that tense.
Spread sunshine all over the place. Just put on a happy face.
Once again, it's all tied up, so all that's left are the two key components of any great musical, the story and the songs. Two for the price of one. These are story and songs for the win.
When you're not near us, we're blue. Oh, Conrad, we love you.
I know it's kind of cheating to include both the story and songs in the same round, but it is a musical, so screw it. Anyway, like said before, the TV adaptation is the more faithful of the two. But like I've also said before, more faithful doesn't automatically mean better. So which adaptation has that honor? Let's look at the songs first. Yeah, who could forget classics like The Telephone Hour, What's the Matter with Kids Today, Give Me One More Time, and of course,
Put on a happy face.
And both movies have good renditions of them. Though I was a bit disappointed that the original cut a lot of my favorite songs like Normal American Boy, Baby Talk to Me, and of course,
If only you'd been an English teacher.
Why movie? Why? But quality over quantity, and in regards to the songs that both movies share, I think I like the ones in the original a bit more. Don't get me wrong, the ones in the remake were great. And God, who knew Jason Alexander could sing like that? But I just felt the original's orchestration sounded a little better, and many of the songs had very surreal and trippy visuals, which fit the goofy tone the movie was going for. That, and I actually think the context of the songs is a little better here. Like, I applaud the decision to have Albert's mother May also sing in What's the Matter with Kids, as it's a great way to express her displeasure when she learns that Albert's shutting down their family music corporation. Also compare Put on a Happy Face in both movies. In the remake, Albert sings it to some teen who's bummed that Conrad's going off to the army, while in the original he sings it to Rosie when she's stressed over Albert's inability to defend her against his mother or pop the question of marriage. I honestly think it works better to have Albert sing to Rosie regarding this, as Rosie's stressed mood is kind of an important point in the story, and honestly, it seemed a little extreme to have Albert give a whole song and dance just to cheer up some kid he'd never met and we never see again in the story. It was nice of him, sure, but extreme still. And...
Little girl, this is an adult speaking. I already get a smile.
But now let's look at the non-music parts of the plot. While the first halves of each film follow one another pretty closely, the second halves are extremely different. Let's look at the original first. Like said before, Rosie dumps Albert after he breaks his promise to tell his mom, "Screw you, I'm moving out and marrying this girl," while Kim dumps Hugo when he jealously mocks how gaga she is over this Conrad Birdie kiss ordeal. And what's worse, Ed Sullivan takes stupid pills and decides the American public would rather watch some Russian ballet than the nation's biggest rock star give his farewell performance, and cuts the song as well as Conrad's appearance save for 10 seconds. So in addition to trying to win Rosie back, Albert's also got to figure out how to save his career-saving scheme. The director of the Russian ballet won't compromise with him, and Conrad's too busy with a lot of living to do to be of any help. And Rosie seems to have no interest in taking Albert back, until he saves her from the overexcited Shriners Club members who she gave a performance to, and she comes up with the perfect solution to save the song and Albert's career. They'll spike the Russian ballet conductor's water with Randolph's super speed formula that he's been testing on his turtle, so the ballet will end quickly and they'll have time for the song. And it works! But then Hugo can't take his jealousy any longer and smacks Conrad out. But that's okay. Albert's through with music and going to be a research chemist married to Rosie, and May's even come to accept their relationship. Hugo and Kim also have a sweet reconciling. Harry's glad he got to be on Ed Sullivan, and they never reveal what happened to Conrad. I guess he just went off to combat. Now let's look at the remake. In this version, as well as in the original musical, Conrad's performance and Hugo's jealous rage happen in the middle of the film, which is why Kim dumps Hugo. And like said before, Rosie dumps Albert mainly because she didn't like how his mom had another girl flirt with him, even though he didn't reciprocate. And like in the original, Rosie won't accept any apology Albert makes, and Conrad can't help because he's off partying with the teens. But then he leaves to be alone with Kim, and when her parents find out, they get scared the two are going to have sex. Though, looking at many other people in the music industry, you really can't blame them, and come to rescue her along with the other parents before an orgy starts with Conrad and their daughters. And it turns out their fears were correct, as Conrad's very close to persuading Kim to make love to him, not to mention giving her cigarettes. Douche. Albert and Rosie go off to help the other parents find Kim, and in the process, Albert finally stands up to his mom and tells her he's moving out. And we get 2 songs created for this version, one about May expressing her sorrow over Albert finally moving out, and the other with Albert expressing how psyched he is to finally find his nerve.
I took a giant step, a self-reliant step, a brave defiant step.
Anyway, Kim's saved from underage sex by the other teens who have come to awe over Conrad some more. The parents and police arrive, Conrad's arrested for inappropriate behavior with a minor, Albert bails him out and acts like he, his mother, and Conrad are all going to sneak out of town and continue with Conrad's music career. But he never gets on the train and sends the two out of his life forever, leaving him free to marry Rosie. Pretty different second halves, aren't they? And once again, I think I'm going to go with the original. Sure, there were a few things I preferred about the remake's second half, like Albert giving his mom the putting down she rightfully deserved, but the whole subplot of having to rescue an underage Kim from a horny Conrad felt pretty dark and mature for a family musical, and I didn't like how they wrapped up some of the character arcs. Albert never reconciles with his mother, he just literally sends her out of his life. Conrad gets away with seducing a minor, Kim and Hugo never get a proper reconciliation. Hell, we don't even know what happened to them after the parents come. The subplot of a rival act threatening the song and the heroes using a speed formula to make sure they'll have enough time for their song was just more fitting with the comedic tone of the story. And it's very satisfying to see May finally learn to love and accept Albert and Rosie as lovers after how she treated them throughout the whole movie. Not to mention we get a far more satisfying reconciliation between Hugo and Kim. So I just want to emphasize I really do enjoy both movies, and I admire that the new film tried to stay closer to the musical, but this is just one of those instances where more faithful doesn't equate to better. The original just maintains the comedic tone the story is going for throughout and ends on a higher note, and when you come down to it, it's simply the better movie.
Point goes to the old, winning the match.
That is a lie. A lie through and through.
So spread sunshine all over the place. Put on a happy